In this video, I'm going to be talking about pressure canning. I'm going to show you how I store my pressure canner in between uses, how I care for my pressure gauge, and the lids I'm using now because you can't get the ball mason lids in Australia. I'll be discussing the best conditions on how to store your canned food, as well as how I manage my empty jars and my shelves to keep them nice and organised. Hi guys, I'm Elissa at Moat Cottage Homesteading. After pressure canning, when the lid's cooled down, I remove my pressure gauge. You don't want to get your pressure gauge wet when you're washing the lid. And you don't want to bump it around either. I remove the nut underneath, carefully removing the washer and the rubber seal. Now I remove all of these because they can be damp. There'll be water in here and moisture around the thread possibly as well. So I carefully use a tissue or a dry cloth and I dry the thread and get the water out of that bit there. And because it's not that easy to dry the internal nut thread, I just leave it on a tissue all together so that it can dry properly before I put it away. Once it's dried properly, I then place the seal on, the washer, and the nut. I don't do it up tight or anything like that. I just make sure it's on. Then I place it in bubble wrap, placing it back in the box. And this will be the last thing I put in my pressure canner when I'm storing my canner. It's recommended that you get your dial gauge recalibrated every 12 months. And in Australia, to do this, I recommend you go to your local engineering workshop and ask them where they get their dial gauges recalibrated. They'll probably send them off to a company that does that. And they will know because they'll have dial gauges for different machinery that they use. For me, it's a 4-hour round trip, and so that's going to be more expensive than buying a new one. So what I do is I focus on my weighted gauge and I know what it's meant to sound like, and that's how I can. I do have my dial gauge attached while I'm canning, and so far after 4 or 5 years, it's still calibrated perfectly in my opinion based on my weighted gauge. If you're in America, I believe you go to your local exchange. If you're in other countries, I really don't know. Maybe go to your local engineering workshop and see where they get their dial gauges recalibrated like we do in Australia. Then to wash it, I remove my sealing ring and the lid, the sealing ring and the pressure canner, and all the equipment that I use gets washed, apart from the dial gauge, of course. And then I make sure it's thoroughly dry before putting it away. Once everything's dried, it's ready to go back in the pressure canner so that everything I use is together. And it's going to make it so much easier for when I'm canning next time. So in go the trays, my weighted gauge with my weight on top, the magnet debubbling tool, funnel, and tongs. I keep my lids in a separate area in the cupboard behind, and my rings are in there. So everything's easy and handy to get to, and I can open the drawer and see how many boxes of lids I've got left, so I know exactly where I'm at when I need to do a restock. Also, I have spare sealing rings and other rubber parts that need replacing on the Presto Pressure Canner, and they're in the bottom drawer as well. In goes the sealing ring and my pressure gauge. I don't leave my sealing ring in the lid when I'm storing it because I don't feel like it needs to be under pressure when it's in storage. I've had mine for 4 years. They say they last about 12 months or so. Mine's been going for over 4 years, and it's not dry because I oil it before I use it, and it's in very good condition and it still fits. It hasn't shrunk, it doesn't see sunlight, so it's not getting sun damaged, And I check it before I put things away. Everything gets checked so that I'm not putting away any faulty parts, because when I'm in a hurry to can next time and I've got all this food to prepare, and obviously I want to be doing that, I'm not going to be able to wait for parts to come if I don't have them. Obviously I do have replacement parts, but it's still a good idea and a good practice to keep an eye on everything when you're putting it away and when you're getting it out. I leave my vent pipe, my overpressure plug, and my lid lock or my cover lock. I leave all of these things on when I'm washing, and I make sure that the parts can move and that this is done up tight still. And I make sure my vent pipe is clear and dry. And I leave all of those things on the lid, and then the lid just gets stored on. Like that. And that's ready to pop up on top of the cabinet so that it's out of reach. It's not going to be bumped around in a cupboard or on the ground or anything like that, because obviously the dial gauge is in there and I want that instrument to stay undamaged. And the Presto Pressure Canner is a lightweight aluminium. You don't need to be digging them around and kicking them when they're in the way, and it's better to have a place for it. And an easy access place as well. So mine goes up there on the cabinet. Since 2020, we haven't been able to get ball mason lids in Australia. I've tried other lids and I'm now happily using ForJars lids. I've been using them for many months now and I'm really happy with the seal rate. I'm getting a good seal rate with them. The ForJars company is actually a small family business in the US, so we do have to import them into Australia, or if you're elsewhere from the US, but they do sell in bulk batches, so you can get a lot at once, and they do have a good seal rate, so it's worth it. And then you're paying less often for postage if you get more at once. At the time of filming this, I'm not affiliated with the ForJars lids company. However, I'll leave the link in the description below so you can get some lids that are going to seal if you need them. My used jars get washed and put into a basket, ready for storage out in the shed. I have shelves out there with the boxes that they came in, and they get put away safely for the next use. Of course, they also get re-washed before canning to be certain that they're nice and clean. I store my canned food in the larder pantry on these shelves, and the shelves evolve depending on what I'm needing to store on them at the time. It's best to store your jars in a dry, dark place out of sunlight and away from stoves and heaters. The ideal temperature is 5 to 19 degrees Celsius or 40 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, this isn't always practical. My temperatures fluctuate over the year, and this room can be anything from 9 degrees Celsius to 40 degrees Celsius in summer. And it's not always heated and never cooled, as we don't have air conditioning. You have to do the best with what you have. Food will lose nutritional value as it ages, so I always label and date my jars and rotate them accordingly, using the oldest jars first. Rings are taken off for storage so I can see if a jar has a fake seal. If it loses a seal, I don't want my ring to be holding an unsealed lid on, creating a fake seal, and then have someone come along and use the jar, not realizing that the reason the lid came off easy was because the jar was no longer sealed, and then they might get sick. If you'd like to learn more about pressure canning, then check out my playlist. I have videos on everything from canning different types of food to how to set up a brand new Presto Pressure Canner and how to remove the lids off your jars when you don't have any special tools for it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.